this area would have been a caribou area, or caribou herds coming through below Herd Dome, the sacred mountain. There would have been campsites here. The stone tools that were found showed evidence that there were stone tools produced in this site, which meant that it was a long-term occupation site. And when those stone tools were found, and we reported that they were found, the archaeology branch and BCOGC came in and stole the ones that we had left on site, took them off site. They trespassed on the territory and stole those tools. And then they proceeded to release a bulletin through BCOGC that suggested that we had planted them. And that's the sort of racism that we've been dealing with here, is that it's so unbelievable to them that Indigenous people have been occupying this site for thousands of years that they would rather believe that a bunch of protesters planted the tools than to believe that there's that kind of connection to this territory. And so they've built their trailers now right over where we found those tools. And have continued to clear in this area and continue to occupy the site. And it's not the only site that will be like that. There's campsites and important cultural sites all over this territory. And so that was only one small bit of evidence to show that connection to the territory, and it was completely disregarded. So that violence continues to try and erase Wet'suwet'en presence on this land. And so I just wanted you to see sort of what they've done here. Despite that finding, it slowed down their progress for a while they figured out what to do, but they very quickly worked with the government and with BCOGC, the Oil and Gas Commission, to put that aside and to continue their work. And now we hear down the way, close to the beginning of the Quay Trail, that they had an internal audit done that said that they didn't have the proper archaeological permits to be doing the work and the clearing for the right-of-way that's starting over that way. That's something we've been telling them for months and months. It's something that they knew full well, that they were dealing with sites of the world cultural importance and sites that Wet'suwet'en people have been occupying for thousands of years. They knew about the Quay Trail. They still didn't put the permits in. We've been telling them that they needed to have the proper permits and that their permits were not enough. They basically did a flyover survey of the territory. They never had people on the ground doing digs to try and make sure that they weren't going to disturb any cultural sites. They flew over in a helicopter and decided that was enough. And so they've bulldozed through this site, and they'll do the same down this way, and they're continuing to try and clear by the start of the Quay Trail. And they make loopholes and break their own rules. They find ways to continue their work. And it's the violence that we're living with every day. They're coming in every day, workers coming in every day, workers staying back here, police patrolling. We're trying to run a youth camp. We've got the youth here right now who are helping to film and document what's going on here. We know that they've been coming in and are likely hunting and fishing on the territory without our consent. And so there's a lot going on here, and this is just evidence of a sort of like concentrated area where this has been happening. This was an area that was originally, this winter we were trapping here, and we had a trap line right behind you as well. They came in and bulldozed that trap line, and then claimed that they hadn't seen our traps before they bulldozed them. So they've done that. They've bulldozed the trap line. They bulldozed the area where those artifacts were found, or put there by the ancestors to help the unistoten care for this territory. And it just continues to happen, and they're continuing to do work as quickly as possible, regardless of what rules they're breaking, regardless of the lack of consent. And we're dealing with the fact that they're sleeping right behind us while we're trying to do healing programming, while we're trying to work with the youth here. And so this is just evidence of what's happening and the violence that we're dealing with every day. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Well, we know based on their permitting, the first archaeological assessment, the first archaeologist said high significance and high probability. So they didn't like that, so they hired a second archaeologist that minimal chance of finding artifacts, so they went with that, and they dismissed the first archaeological report.
Before I came out to the unistoten camp, I used to work as an archaeologist. I saw pictures of the point that you guys found up here. One of the things we do to date points is we look at the style of the point it is, the width, the girth, and the length of it, and a style of notching. that occurred, and the color. He has a patina color over top, and the color that the point had, from my judgment, from working with points all these years, is that point had to have been over 6,000 years old.
Yeah, and they played with the language. They said that the point was not in its original location, that the artifacts were not in their original location, which is of course the case because the area had been bulldozed. And you can see when they stopped us on the way in, they stopped us to escort us through. And they stopped by asking us questions like, what are your intentions here? Or like, where do you plan on going? Which is obviously deeply disrespectful for the people whose territory this is. And so that's sort of what they're dealing. They think that they have the right to control access.
We noticed this was mainly a grizzly habitat. So because of all this noise and all this activities, the grizzlies have been pushed down. So we're seeing more of the families that once were here, because we've followed some of the grizzlies for 4 years, and now they're down on the Crystal, and some are going as close as the Silvertip with cubs. So we know they got pushed out of here because this was their home before. They covered this whole area.
Well, 6 years there was no hunting allowed on the territory back here, and when I lived back here, we made 2 trips in and out of the back end of the territory here a year, one in the spring, one in the fall, just to do check on what's happening with the wildlife. And over that 5 years, it was remarkable to see the moose that were walking through here. Like, most of them have never seen a human before, because nobody came back here. It was just us twice a year. We come in the spring and come back out in the fall again. So they didn't even know what humans look like. It was like, I do a lot of hunting, and usually if you come across a moose, it'll look at you and then it'll run. These guys didn't. They just kind of stood there and they wondered what you were. This place was like a game reserve. It was beautiful. It was incredible because no humans were back here. Now we got a full-blown man camp right in the middle of this territory that was brought back to a pristine state, and now it's polluted with humans and noise. The animals that were here when we started to protect this area came because they weren't being bothered by anybody. Now this is really hard to be around.
So I think initially they said this is a 150-man camp, and they're proposing a 400-man camp for here. So they're going to clear more further back towards the mountain to make this camp bigger. That's in their proposal. And right now we're in the courts, and they said it could take up to 2 months, and it's been 2 months now, and still haven't heard anything back regarding the injunction. And they said that's the normal process. They drag it and delay it through the courts and let them do their work and finish their job before the judge makes their decision. So we still haven't heard anything back yet on what's happening with the injunction.